everyone, welcome to Small Embers, the story so far, part 4. We're back. Although, I suppose the big news is that we're not all back. As we pick up at the start of chapter 63, we found Vander, Petren and Tock mourning their friend Augustus, who died fighting the vampire lord Wolf Eriksson in the Temple of Tyr in Frosthollow. Badly shaken, the trio swore vengeance on Eriksson before standing vigil until dawn. And then, after respectfully looting Augustus's corpse,
is what I would have wanted. Wait, what?
They headed to the rendezvous with Awillian the Knife in the mines below the city. But they didn't find Awillian. Instead, the group uncovered a strange chamber filled with remains of creatures of many species. They reasoned this must be the location where the necromancer, Valak Storm, tried to complete the ritual of ascension all those years ago. The act that caused the storm's fall ribbon that ravaged the land. The Dark Blade, the benediction they had been seeking, was in the room, and they decided Tock should be able to take it from the stone in which it was embedded. After all, there are no automatons in the legends.
Vander felt the risk to be acceptable.
But once Tock grasped the sword, magical guardians appeared and attacked our band of adventurers. Once defeated, they vanished, leaving behind only a small girl. She revealed herself to be Alexis Storm, daughter of Valak Storm, frozen in time as a child and trapped here below ground by Wolf. Clearly powerful, she promised to help the group defeat Wolf if they released her, which they could do by destroying certain glyphs in the crypt of Sergei Eriksson, Wolf's brother. With a certain amount of trepidation, the gang agreed to her bargain. A more reliable ally also arrived in the shape of Rojan Serafina. She too agreed to help in the upcoming battle against Wolf. And then they found one more ally, the gravedigger Seeksorrow. He had witnessed the dead rising from their graves and was trying to gather an army to fight them. With the Heron group recognising this must be connected to Wolf, they decided to join forces. Four-handed once again, the group headed to Castle Eriksson and Sergei's crypt. Stumbling across Llewellyn, Wolf's right-hand man, they tried to convince him his master was in fact a vampire. To do this, they took him to see the Mask Weaver, who was masquerading as Augustus Zeno. A battle ensued and the Mask Weaver was killed, but not before revealing that he is an emissary of the Hushed One, an old god who had been trying to secretly replace many individuals of power within the world. This Mask Weaver had failed, but who knew how many had succeeded?
Well, certainly not us.
Llewellyn, now convinced, agreed to gather the Blue Cloaks to provide backup for the battle, and the gang descended into the crypt where they smashed the tomb of Sergei Eriksson and headed into the courtyard for the final showdown with Wolf. The battle was intense and bloody, and featured a T-Rex. Outside the walls of the castle, Serafina battled the Aramicus, and the curse that sealed the city was broken. Overhead, the Emperor's airship, the Ravager, hovered, and spying an opportunity, the Emperor attacked. Aboard his new plaything, a red dragon.
I am Cinderin the Great. Kneel before your master.
Tock was dragging a dying Wolf Eriksson away through a portal when the Emperor landed and the others were close behind. Only Petren lingered long enough to see the death of Serafina and the apparent beginning of an accord between the Emperor and Alexis Storm, before he too shot through the portal and landed at the Sterling, moored by the Citadel.
So, all in all, a gentle introduction to the adventuring life for me.
And then there was a period of time when nothing hugely chaotic took place. The group travelled to Sanctuary and spent some months there. Vander sidled away to follow a lead. the others visited Deepmond to check in on the Knights of Scarlet. News from around the realm continued to worsen, and then Vander returned with word of another benediction, this time in his hometown of Shale. So the group set sail once more on the Sterling, for a voyage north into Vander's past.
Archivist, why do you not mention the introduction of Little Tick? Father, they're failing to highlight my importance to the narrative.
Quite. They found Shale to be a cold and faded place, its former glories almost forgotten. The group arrived in the middle of the Renaissance Day festival, but amongst the crowd were some faces familiar to Tock and Vander. Aloe Clearwater and Hugo Steppenwolf, former bounders and now members of a gang sworn to vengeance on the Heron group. An encounter with these two led to Gearhead, Vander's old gnomish friend, and it took all of Vander's guile to avoid the encounter turning deadly. Well, more deadly, I mean. Aloe lost his life in shocking circumstances, which caused Petren and Seeksorrow to question whether they could really trust their new friend Vander Finnick. However, it wasn't long before members of the group got a glimpse of why Vander is the way he is. When they met his father, the icy Cedric Highmore. He refused to acknowledge Vander as his son, and therefore would not be handing over the family ring, which was the benediction they sought. He did let slip that it sits within the family vault, however, which meant that a heist was on the cards.
Imagine if he'd just acknowledged me as his son and handed the ring over. No fun at all. I'm glad the old bastard decided to do it the hard way.
So, Vander, Tock and Seeksorrow embarked on a daring raid on the Dark Bank's vault, but Petren had gone off on his own. Thinking he had seen another Furbolg, he tracked them to the wilds outside of Shale. He found evidence nearby, but no Furbolg. Also, he spent a few days down a hole and met an enigmatic figure called Indigo, who was very interested in the group's activities.
Lovely chap, that Indigo. Good listener. Curious about the world.
Probably fine. Despite Seeksorrow arriving to the heist bearing only a boomerang, it was an unqualified success and the gang walked off with both the ring and an enormous fortune. Vander then decided to see exactly how much fortune was smiling on him by attempting to woo his former love Morticia. And almost unbelievably, that worked out too. Squeak! Allow me to translate. That squeak meant my eyes! But while Vander was out courting, Tock was out trading information with an enigmatic figure named Cypher. He learned that the Sons of Kale were marching on Lanasil, the home of both his elven friend and the Jarima tree that would allow the Empire to build a new automaton army. Tock presented this news to his companions, much to their alarm. This was compounded when Petren eventually found the Furbolg he had been seeking. Her name was Barilla, and she had fled these lands to the east as the Sons of Kale were wreaking havoc, and she had witnessed the enslavement of the Furbolg communities in that area. While so much was falling apart, at the same time, everything's coming up Vander. And so, he decided to push his luck even further and petitioned to become Sky Marshal of Shale and commander of its impressive fleet of airships. And incredibly, this worked too. And with that, their time in Shale was at an end. The gang and the fleet headed east, first to Sanctuary, where they met up with other members of the rebellion. After a brief meet and greet with the Ungovernables, they witnessed a speech from Rosalind, prepped the fleet and loaded the Knights of Scarlet aboard before taking off into a storm heading east, towards the forest of Lanasil and the remote city of Misery. And that, my friends, is the story so far, part 4. I've been Izzy, and join us for when we return for Chapter 81, The East Wind, Part 1.
Thanks for listening. Please consider supporting Dice Company on Patreon, where for the price of a cup of coffee you get access to a whole other show, Extra Roll, as well as an ad-free listening experience. The Dice Company Discord server, along with our socials, can be found on our link tree in the show notes. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to recommend us to your friends. If you didn't like it, recommend us to your enemies. And we'll see you next time on Dice Company.